It's Wednesday, the 27th of November, 2024, and in this evening's show, we reflect on Saturday's sickening last-gasp Derby Day defeat at Bolton, and yesterday's fairly comfortable away win away at Bristol Rovers, which finally ended our horrible 8-game winless run. I'm John Aspinall, and this is Seaside's podcast, Match Reaction Show, Bolton and Bristol Rovers. Good evening, everybody. On what day is it? Wednesday at 9 o'clock. Coming to you on a Wednesday at 9. Quite unusual time, but we're covering both games. We weren't going to be here on Monday, but we thought we'd do a double header. Not because there was a complete fuck up, just like there was at the beginning of this show. But we got there in the end, didn't we, Tim and Brad? Various technical difficulties, but we've pulled it out of the bag. Or have we? Speak.
I'm
this
here.
This is why me and John are
time will tell for me.
We're on the top because we're technically adept. You're on the bottom because you're not.
I'm
poor
equipment.
Poor equipment, Mitch.
As Mitch said before, he got rudely talked over then. The top tech bods are on top of the layout. The amateurs at the bottom. But, Tim, you and I have just rushed back after a game of walking football to...
We ran home, did we, John?
Walked on the pitch and ran home.
As you can probably tell from my slightly dishevelled appearance, I've not had a chance to have a shower or anything, so...
I've just forced a Thai green curry down me, microwaved. Not very good. Anyway, let's get on with the show. We've got plenty to catch up on. Welcome if you're on the joining in the chat. Welcome, David. Welcome, Callum. Let's get cracking then with two games to catch up on. Blackpool versus Bolton. Wrong way out there. Let's get us all in. Yeah, Bolton v Blackpool at a shit time, 12:30 p.m. Even shitter weather. Was it a shit lineup, Mitch? O'Donnell, Husband, Gabriel, Norburn, Evans, Joseph, Embleton, Coulson, Casey, Offiayah and Apter. The big standout for me was Kyle Joseph making the starting 11.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I had particularly high hopes for this game, but when I saw the lineup, I thought it was really, as to be honest, most of Bruce's lineups have been. It was more or less what I would have done. It seemed like that, you could argue about one or two of them, but it was pretty much the best of a bad job. And obviously, Joseph being fit was a big boost because I thought, if he hadn't been fit, then really genuinely we possibly had to play Terry Bondo in order to get something of Joseph's energy and height that he brings. And as much as everybody loves Terry Bondo, I'm not quite sure that going into the the biggest grudge match of the season with a 17-year-old kid with about 20 minutes experience in league football would have been ideal. So yeah, it was great to see Joseph, and other than that, I couldn't really argue.
Gutted to see Ash Fletcher on that sub bench either, Tim. I preferred Bondo, to be honest.
Yeah, the interesting for me was the shape. Obviously, we're clearly playing a back three with two wing backs. I think probably it was a case of making the best of what we had, wasn't it? Really, and so we had this almost Critch-like shape formation, and it was interesting to see Apter playing a little bit more centrally, and also and Norburn back in the team. I think first time he started probably about 9 or 10 weeks. So I know he made a cameo the other week, didn't he? But him and Evans were doing quite well during the early periods of the post Critchley era, and obviously before he got injured, and obviously Albie Morgan came in and ably replaced him. But it was good to see him back, particularly with there being some uncertainty as to when Albie would be back. Still not convinced about Embleton being in there, but like Mitch says, otherwise I thought it looks okay to me. I was more encouraged when I saw that team than I was before I saw that team. I think the big fillip was the fact that Joseph was back in there, and my gut reaction was he wasn't going to risk him, and he'd rest him for that, and keep him back for last night, but he didn't decide to do that, and it in relation to that selection, I think it paid off.
Brad, we talked about Edward Duckworth on the previous pod. No, you weren't on it. If you cast your mind back, he was the shithouse P&E knobber ref who sent off Jordan Rhodes first time ever in his career for next to nothing against Portsmouth. He was the man in the middle. The first half an hour, he seemed to give Blackpool everything. So I think it's obviously been playing on his mind a bit that he's been coming in for some stick for his pressing connections in his previous altercation with Jordan Rhodes. But the first half hour of the game, not a lot happened, really. I'm just putting my match notes. I actually made a few notes. Mr. Sheehan nearly cleans up with a free kick.
Ooh, that's a good one, John.
Oh, that's good.
It's Alan Partridge-esque, that.
To be fair, I didn't actually see much of the Bolton game because I was actually renewing my vows because it was my 11-year wedding anniversary. But I was looking at the commentary, and yeah, you hit the nail on the head, John. The first half an hour, it seemed that everything went our way, which I'm not going to complain for any way, shape, or form. But looking at the ref can change his mind quite quickly, and if we all think he's a knobber, and we know he's a knobber. I think the second half it didn't really go our way as much, and I think the ref had a lot to play with in the last final minutes. That's my personal perception of it. Looking at the highlights, it's a shame, really. That obviously we'll talk about it into the game a lot more, but yeah, David's just said it himself. 10 bookings in total. That's a lot of bookings in a game. So he was trying to police the game. In that,
it wasn't a dirty game. I didn't think either.
Right.
He's got form for it. This guy, he books at least 10 every game, more or less.
I thought he set out to sort of let it slide a bit because it was really slippy. It was really wet, and the players, even right at the beginning, the pitch was top of the pitch was really wet, and there were players sliding about. And I thought in the first 10-15 minutes, it looked like he was going to let a lot go. And then I think it started to boil up a bit. And then he sort of thought, hang on, I've let this go too far. And then just started booking people for anything, for almost anything, because he didn't want that game to slip out of control, because it really could have done with the sort of the combination of the surface and the local rivalry. And the best one was when he booked Evans, or was it Evans? I think it was Evans. He booked him for taking a throw from the wrong place, I think, at some point in the second half. It was one of the weirdest bookings I've ever seen.
Evans got booked for taking too long on the throw-in yesterday as well, didn't he? That's 2 bookings for throwing.
Yeah.
Well, let's be honest, clearly that this bloody Duckworth doesn't get many birthday cards or Valentine's Day cards because he likes dishing them out on other players. Do you know what I mean?
Dishing them out with confetti. Duckegg, and I put in my note. I've noted Apter was in a very promising position on 28 minutes, and Duckegg blows for the foul. Great whipped ball in, and Santos just clears. Thomason's just whipped one in on the half an hour mark. Charles can't apply the finish, and then goal action, as Radio Lancashire used to say. Great whipped ball in from, was it Embo or was it Evans?
Embo, yeah.
It was Nobbs picked it up in the midfield, and at that point he checked back, and at that point I went, fucking hell, Norburn, like that, because I thought he'd done a classic turn around and pass it backwards, but actually what he'd done was see Embleton in with more space to run into him, slipped it to Embleton, and he took it about 10 yards and put the ball into Fletcher. And I don't know if you actually saw me, Tim, but I was right near you. I was behind you, so I could see down you with Ash and a few other people. The ball, I couldn't tell it was a goal. I was with.
It seemed to
Tony.
take ages to hit the back of the net, didn't it? There was almost like a pregnant pause before the goal celebrations because nobody was quite sure whether it had gone in or whether there was a foul on the keeper because it was obviously the opposite end.
A what, Tim? What did you say? A what? A what pause?
A pregnant pause.
What's that mean?
Like a pause full of sort of uncertainty. It's got lots of potential in it. It's.
You can Google it, John.
There we go. No, that for a while, have we?
No, we haven't. No.
A pregnant pause. You learn something every day.
Me and Tony was with. We were like looking at each other, going, "Is it? Is it? Is it? Is it?" And looking around, sort of judging from, kind of watching the players' reaction, and then eventually they sort of ran. They ran away, and we're like, "Yeah, I think it is."
It was a great ball in from Embleton, to be fair, and I think Joseph just got in between the centre backs, didn't he? And I don't think the keeper covered himself in glory, and Joseph just made sure he got something of his head on it, and that was enough to take it beyond the keeper, and basically, it sort of seemed to almost trickle into an empty net.
It was the kind of goal that we seem to concede quite a lot of, where it just sort of happened quite quickly, where we just ran up the pitch, crossed it, and scored. And it was.
We could have gone 2-0 up not long after that. Huge save from Baxter from Gabriel. That was the name of the keeper. We were all over them after that for a good 5-6 minute spell. They were getting quite angst-ridden, their supporters. And if you look at the graphic across to your right hand side for the first half stats, we had a lot of shots on target, two big chances, sorry. One of them was missed. We had a better XG. And we were on top for most of that sort of final half of the first half. Mitch, is that a fair comment?
Yeah, definitely. That chance you allude to was lovely work. I mean, I didn't think Apter had an outstanding game by any means, but he had a few nice moments, and he linked really well with Gabriel there, and it was really clever, the interplay with Gabriel, and Gabe's took it reasonably well. And yeah, I mean, it far exceeded my pre-match expectations that first half, where it was sort of, we kept it really. The game was very tight for a long time, and then we had that dominant spell. And all I can really remember from the rest of the first half is they had another free kick right at the end of the half, and I thought, they're going to score this. This is going to be typical. They'll be dominant, and then they'll score from a free kick, and they didn't make much of it. And I was far more optimistic than I expected to feel at half time, which probably made what happened next come worse. It'd been worse because I'd sort of steeled myself. Before the game, I had literally zero expectation or hope. And then by half time, I was thinking, where are we in the table? How many points are we off the playoffs? And I fell into the terrible trap.
Foolish thinking, Mitch. Come on, this is Blackpool.
And I
talking
just quickly picking up on what Tim said on the team lineup. I'd been similar, where Embleton hasn't done an awful lot. He's a player who I kind of want this season. I've wanted to like him because I really liked him last time round. He's sort of my kind of player. He's a bit different, but I actually thought he had a pretty good first half. He didn't just put the ball in. I thought he found space. I thought he linked play well. I thought he was more mobile. And I think we'll probably talk about it in relation to the game last night as well. But I thought first half he was pretty good. Then obviously when we come to the second half, it was like he disappeared. It's like somebody had taken him off the pitch because he was anonymous, because the game had totally changed.
I think it's obviously a fitness thing with Embleton. It's taken him a while to get match fit, but he's slowly getting there, and I think he's like an oil tanker trying to do a U-turn.
It's a bit bizarre that a professional footballer who's in the sort of prime of his career takes quite so long to get fit to play a full 90 minutes, isn't it? I don't know. Maybe it's sometimes in people's metabolism, that they. I mean, I remember, Charlie could be quite. When he came back from a layoff, he could take a few games to get back into it, and then other players you'll see will just be straight back in and as if they've never been away. But
Marvin had that as well, in that it wasn't so much fitness, but Marvin was always awful for the first 3 games when he'd come back off a layoff. It's like he'd never played football, and it'd take him about 3 games to get back into the groove. I also think Embleton's one of those players where you get much more out of him when the team is sort of functioning properly, because he's a little bit of a luxury player, isn't he? He's not a hard-working, hard-grafting, all-action, tough-tackling midfielder. He's more of a sort of silky link man. And if you're the dominant team, then that player is gonna have more of the ball. There's going to be more players around him, more players up the pitch. It's going to make more sense because there's more people to link with. If you're sort of tracking back for 20 minutes, like we're in the second half in Bolton, your sort of more silky link man is going to, they're not going to have a good game because it's not their game.
He also had that terrible injury at Derby, if you cast your mind. Was it over a year out? I mean, that's going to have an effect.
Long time, that, isn't it?
Yeah. He's had 2, hasn't he? He's had 2 near career-ending injuries. He had one before he came to us with Sunderland. Then he had, I don't know if it was the same injury, but it was an injury of the same severity. So,
Well, it's just not. It might not be a physical aspect, is it? It could be a mental block that he's got at the moment. Yeah. Maybe he's scared of getting injured again. Look, it's one of them mindsets where he's got to get himself mentally prepared to go, right, I need to get to match fitness. But if he's not going to push himself because he's scared that in a training session, or if you're going to have a friendly match where he's trying to get to match fitness and he's scared that he's going to pull off an injury where it is going to be career ending, mentally that would absolutely screw with his head.
Yeah, it's a decent point. Without wanting to jump ahead of ourselves, but he had another good game against Bristol Rovers. But we'll come to that. It's just good to see him getting progressively slightly better each game, isn't it? And let's hope that continues. Okay, on to the second half of the Bolton game. Got the graphic up there. XG went through the wall, through a hole in the wall. Rather 0.2. They were nearly 1 for the second half. We had 2 shots, all half target, 0 big chances.
More than double the accurate passes of us in the second half.
That's
a biggie, that, isn't it?
That was a key thing I noticed, the amount of missed place passes. We were extremely ragged.
They dominated the field.
You could see in the second half, in a sense, why they get frustrated, because you could see that they have got quite a good team sometimes, but other times they're hopeless. And I thought they were excellent the first 25 minutes of that half. And I was, my optimism disappeared very, very quickly, because it just came out as a totally different game, and they were just ripping into us endlessly. And obviously they scored, but they couldn't. It felt as if I thought they had scored again when they hit the bar. And then they had the I can't remember when the disallowed goal came, but they had a lot of the ball, and they were turning it into chances as well. They weren't just passing it around and making us run about. They were turning it into chances. We for the first 20 minutes of the second half, until Bruce made changes, we barely got out of our own half, So it was very different.
I've put in my match note. So Donald's kicking has been really poor all afternoon, kicking out of play a lot from free kicks, dead balls. That can't have helped.
Oh, massively. I mean, the number of times. I mean, I don't know whether he's under instruction to try and find Gabriel on the right side. He seems to be, that's his default pass out from the back, isn't it? But if you're going to do it, the player's got to be receptive to winning it, and I think Gabriel struggled a little bit with that on Saturday. And secondly, they've got to be reasonably accurate. And then, I mean, it almost reminded me of that one of Tyra's first games, where he just basically kicked every single dead ball kick that he did straight into touch. And it always frustrates me, because you've got the whole pitch to aim at, and we're trying to be very, very precise, but doing it appallingly badly. And if you don't get it right, you just give possession away every single time you do it. And I think once it's not worked 2 or 3 times, it's time to have a reset and think about something different, whether it's play it short, so we play out from the back, or whether it's to drill it down the middle and see if we can, Joseph or whatever, can get a flick on, or do chest it down and hold it up. Some has got to change, but it was repetitively frustrating, particularly in that second half when we're attacking our end, because it's on our left-hand side. It seemed to happen every time he did a goal kick. It was ridiculous.
So, as Mitch mentioned, Bolton have hit the bar, should have scored. They've had a disallowed goal. I was thinking, right, we've ridden our luck here big time in this half, and we had a bit of a spell towards the end. We were on the front foot for sort of the last, almost 10 minutes of the.
I think you've got to jump forward back there, John. I think you've got to jump to Bruce's changes. I actually thought his changes were very good, and I thought even though we lost this game, I thought he made some intelligent changes because we were really, really struggling. And then he brought Ballard on, and I thought, what? Why has he done that? I didn't get the change. When the board goes up, you think, oh, he's going to do this. And he brought back, I can't remember who he brought Ballard on. He brought Ballard on. And I thought, what's he doing? And almost instantly, we were much better.
It was for Embleton.
That was it. Yeah.
He's running out of steam, wasn't he, Embo, at that point?
Yeah. And it wasn't necessarily what you'd immediately think of doing, because he thought, well, is he going to bring Finnegan on and try and add an extra midfielder? Is he going to put, I don't know, Ballard on and try and get him to run? And it was just, I didn't really see what he was doing. And it was a shift of formation. It was a shift of shape. And we pretty much, from about 30 seconds after the substitution, we were suddenly back in the game. And although we went on to lose the game, which I'm sure we'll talk about that last 10, 15 minutes, I was really encouraged, because what you want from a manager is to see a problem and solve a problem with some kind of tactical change. And how many times, although we didn't win the game, we played much better after the switch. How many times last season did we sit here and bemoan the fact that we weren't playing very well? And what did Critchley do? He did absolutely nothing. On 82 minutes, he brought Matty Virtue on for whichever other identikit box-to-box midfielder we had playing at the time. And it was just something different. It posed Bolton a different problem, and we improved after it.
We could have snatched it towards the end. Was it Ballard? He was 3 versus. We had a breakaway, didn't we? 3v1. And he just didn't slip Joseph in. I think if that had gone in,
I thought the keeper did well. The defender did well. I think he didn't commit himself, and he read what Ballard was doing, which there wasn't anything wrong with what Ballard did. I think if Ballard had shot, people had been saying you should have passed. He passed, and it didn't quite come off. But it's incredibly frustrating, because I think it was about 30 seconds later that they got the winner or something. It wasn't long after.
That was Finnegan. That was late with Finnegan, because there was Ballard trying to slip a man, and it just got cut out. There was one where somebody got it through, and Apter was screaming for it. I think it was Joseph had charged down a defender or the keeper, and Apter was on the penalty spot with about 10 yards of space around him, and there was someone else beyond him, and Apter was screaming like, give it me, give it me. And Joseph just went on his own. And then Finnegan made a brilliant tackle. This was right at the end. I think this is the one you're thinking of, Tim. Finnegan made a brilliant tackle, picked up the ball, ran about 30 yards down the middle. Gabriel had belted off ahead of him. Quite how Gabriel had got there, I don't know, and why he was there. But Gabriel was ahead of him, as were a couple of other players were in option. And it was like he just froze. It was like he had too many choices to make the pass. And then he was all overcome, and he stopped and squared it to Evans, put it behind Evans.
It was behind him, must.
So Evans went back, got it, put it in the box, and they edited it away, and then went straight up the pitch where Gabriel had been, who hadn't received the pass, with our entire team trailing behind him, not looking very athletic, as they pelted up the pitch. John's just
birthday, John, or something.
Yeah. Was that a celebration of me coming to the end of my monologue there?
I don't know what.
The benefit of the audio pod, John's just had a load of balloons rise up on his screen in front of him for absolutely no apparent reason.
End of monologue balloons release.
Yeah.
End of monologue balloon release.
It's better than the horn, that.
Yeah.
In other words, Mitch, that was your cue to finish.
Indeed. See the balloon shut up.
Oh, if you're listening to this on the audio pod, you need to just go on YouTube and look on 25 and a half minutes. Yeah. I put in my notes, Finnegan drives forward and plays a pathetic ball behind Evans. Lost it into the box. Bolton have broken and gone down the other end. But still, the goal. Poor defending. You've got a line of defenders. Not one of them's come out.
Well, even before that, John, you mentioned Gabriel. Gabriel, when they were going down their left or right, Gabriel should have stuck to the right, so he was matching up to there too. But he seemed to come inside and left. And I've forgotten who was on the right. Was it Pennington? Who was it? Who was out wide covering, but he was left 2-on-1. And Gabriel just seemed to he could have got himself in there to help, and he didn't, which is the first mistake. So we end up overloaded on our defensive right, and then you move to your bit that you were talking about, which you can obviously pick up on. So it was a catastrophe from start to finish, from the moment Finnegan let that ball leave his feet to the ball in the back of the net. It was like Charlie Caroli's section at the Tower Circus, I think.
So off those balloons again. Absolute sickener. Absolute sickener. Right the death.
It was.
I mean,
we had 3 defenders on the man who scored the goal, and not one of them put a foot in.
It's as crap as the first goal, really. We've not talked about Thomason's first goal as well. Just let him drive forward as far as he wanted, not close down for the shot, and you know what he does from that sort of range.
Well, he did to us last season, didn't he?
Yeah, home and away. And they let him do it again. And he's got a bit more venom in his shots because he was released by Blackpool as a 16-year-old. He's obviously got a point to prove against us, and he's done it again. But for Bolton, they overplay at the back a lot, I noticed. Overplay, and you can I think I've seen it on the EFL highlights quite a few times. Too many passes out of the back and press them high, and they're nervous, and we should have capitalised on that more because they weren't great. They weren't a great side by any stretch of the imagination.
No. I just thought our decision making was poor, though. I thought I don't want to sound like Neil Critchley, but I thought we got ourselves into what does he always used to say? Good situations. We had some good situations, but we didn't. The lack of quality in the box, and I thought that actually held true because sometimes I used to think, Critchley, stop talking rubbish. Do you mean we got over the halfway line? That was a good situation, but we actually had several overloads. We had several situations where the right choice would have put us through. We had several situations where if players had got their head up and actually made a simple pass or had been a bit more decisive, I thought that a lot of people said, well, we didn't, like you've just said, we didn't make. I thought we actually did. We put quite a lot of pressure on them in the last spell, but we just made atrocious decision making when it came to that final chance. I think there were probably six-ish moments in the last spell of the game where I ended up going, because we'd just not played the right pass or made the right ball, or somebody had played a ball and then the other person hadn't read the run, so the ball went through but the man didn't get to it, and that was frustrating. Speaking
of atrocious moments, how can we forget Richard O'Donnell's walkabout?
Oh God, yeah.
In the last 5 minutes of the game as well.
Sweeper keeper he is not.
Well, this comes back to decision making at the club, doesn't it? In that we've ended up with two keepers, neither of whom really are first choice. I think to be fair, I think the club thought Tyra would be, but we've, O'Donnell, with the best will in the world, should not be first choice of a decent League One side, and Tyra's shown that he's got vulnerabilities still, and it's a mistake not to have a very, very experienced keeper, and we used to have, two in Maxwell and Grimshaw, and now we've most certainly downgraded significantly in relation to what we've got. Tyra may come good. Obviously, we're going to come on to talk about last night, but he's most certainly got vulnerabilities, and O'Donnell's always had them. So it's a problem. I think that's something that we've got to look at in January.
I call it Tyra's the lesser of two evils. Tyra's got a chance to improve, whereas O'Donnell, I don't know what he was thinking. I don't rate him as a keeper. I think he's like you say, Tim, he's one of those keepers where if you've got an injury from your first team keeper, you don't mind having him for a couple of games while he just covers you while you try and find another keeper in another market. Do you know what I mean? Like when we had Paul Rahubka in League One, when he was injured, and we had what was his? We had a City keeper. God, his name slipped off my tongue. So Joe Hart. We had Joe Hart in, because our second keeper wasn't good enough, So don't get me wrong, Tyra's not perfect, and he's not, but he's young. He's going to make inexperienced choices, and what showed to us at the start of the season what he's capable of doing, and I firmly believe that if he's given the opportunity, he might get back to those winning ways mentally and physically as well, which we'll allude to from last night.
I heard the beginning and end of what Brad was saying, because I just nipped out for a second, but I agree 100% with the beginning and end of what Brad said, because I think I noticed that O'Donnell almost looks like a keeper from a different generation of football to the rest of the defence. There was one moment that really showed it to me where we were under pressure, and Casey picked the ball up and he played a square pass, which if Grimmy had been there would have been just Grimmy had taken it across his body and laid it out. And O'Donnell literally jumped. He flinched because he wasn't expecting it. He wasn't expecting the ball back to him because he'd gone sort of retreated back to his goal to do almost like 2000 goal, year 2000 goalkeeper things, not 2024 goalkeeper things. And I think Tyra can take a pass. He can play with the defence. He can sort of sell a dummy to the forward that's coming. He's much better with his feet. And as much as sometimes he's flapped at a few things and a few things have gone through him, the problem with O'Donnell is he fundamentally unsettles the defence around him because they can't play out of things in the way that they naturally would be, because they're well, Jimmy aside, but they're all young lads who kind of expect to play that way. That's the way they've been coached. That's the way they've been brought up. There'll be a goalkeeper who can take the pass and give a pass to them and they can play out. And there was a moment last night against Bristol where he was late on in the game and somebody knocked it back to Tyra and he played this beautiful little chipped pass across over the top of the lad who was running onto him, and Offiayah just took it and we went right up the pitch, and O'Donnell would have just put his foot through it. And I love Gary Goldie. He's a great bloke. He claps a lot. He's up for it. He's obviously got a lot of passion, but he's a League Two goalkeeper who was last seen getting relegated from the league, who was quite clearly brought him as a non-disruptive backup option who would be good with the kids, and somehow he's ended up as the number one.
He's not quite number one yet.
Take a very quick break and then move on to the Bristol Rovers game. New innovation, that. A quick break.
What was that about?
People didn't know what I was going to do.
Well, everyone was
right.
It was a lot of comfort. Everyone was stretching, standing up. What's the problem? What's the problem with the comfort break?
You nearly saw me in the garage
It's
then
a
trying
bit
to get
longer
another
if you're going to
picture.
do that.
Yeah.
What did you expect him? Like at the cinema when there's the usherette coming, handing out
An ice
cornettos.
cream.
You should have put some elevator music in just
Yeah.
mellow out the scene so everyone's nice and chilled.
I've got my
It's
old,
gonna
I've got my soundboard that I've dug out again. Got all the old chants on. I don't think this one will be sung for a while, will it? Let's delete that.
Well, it all depends on the quality of the product, doesn't it, John?
It's got to be a certain vintage, Mitch.
Right. Bristol Rovers
Crikey.
versus Blackpool. Tyra back in the sticks.
Happy
Husband
days.
Pennington. Casey. A fight. I wish they'd do this in like positional order. Norburn Evans. Embleton. Apter. Embo. Ballard. And Joseph. So we didn't go there with much expectations. Guys, what did we think of that lineup? And obviously the big news is Ash Fletcher, thank God, back on the bench.
It was great to see him back.
Ditto Josh and Oma.
I'd rather saw him
Yeah.
in the pub, to be honest with you. Keep him off the sub bench. Jesus Christ.
Well, we'd lost Coulson to injury, haven't we, at Bolton? So there was always going to be a change from Saturday's team, and just shape wise, I think we were sort of pretty much the same, weren't we, from that perspective? In that we had Pennington, Casey, and Offiayah. Yeah, it was sort of what I expected. I could see Ballard coming. I mean, I'm glad we sort of Ballard is finding his way back into the starting team, because I think that when we've played our best football, Ballard and Joseph have been playing this gung ho football at the top end of the pitch, and I want to set up. We haven't quite hit those heights of Charlton and Huddersfield and Burton, but I want to see it again. That's for me where we're going to see the best football of the lads in those in the tangerine shirts. So I want to see them play. I want to see those two up front buzzing, and we need to. I think Joseph is always buzzing, and we need to get Ballard back at the level he was at in that sort of halcyon spell when we actually won a few games on the trot. So I was glad to see him back in.
Ultimately, I thought it was a good lineup, to be fair. I was happy that Pennington was starting. I thought he's been quite consistent the last few games. Okay, he's had a few errors now and again, but overall, I'd rather have had him in the starting lineup. Happy with Norburn, because obviously he's starting to get back to the match fitness that we needed to. Obviously, you got your midfield with Evans. Obviously, when we didn't have Evans, we were lacking that passing ability. In all fairness, and like you say, Tim, and I'll just repeat what Tim said. When you've got Joseph in the squad, it gives you an abundance of confidence that something can be played. There can be, whether it's a shot in, cutting in, literally trying to make the defence, terrorised, if you will, And Embleton, I do think Embleton, especially on this game, I think when he came into the lineup, I thought he justified it from the game he played against Bolton, because he had some good moments in the game. So I think that was justifiable as well. And I was looking forward to seeing how he played. And Casey's been one of our most, I wouldn't say he's been our best player by any stretch, but he's the most consistent, Casey, I believe, at the moment. And he's reliable. And I think we need someone who's reliable at the moment, that we can have the confidence to be able to go forward with the ball. And, Apter, we know he's been a bit inconsistent, but his energy and his work ethic and wanting to do well for the club just speaks volumes. And I think his consistency will come once he gets more game time. But yeah, glad that Fletcher's on the bench. Really, he should be, at the pub, thinking about what he's doing, because at the moment,
Disgrace, he wasn't in the starting 11, to be fair. But what do we know?
Well,
He'd
he had a
go and buy
fresh
a
cut,
pint.
didn't he?
He'd go and buy a
spent-
pint, and he'd
He
miss
can go
it
and buy a
by
pint. He went to the barber's, got a fresh cut off his nice weekly wage that he keeps getting from the club. You know, he's like Micah Richards. He'll have 3 cuts a week the way he's going.
Just on Ollie Casey, just throwing back to the Bolton game for a second, I thought Casey dealt really well with Dion Charles. And I've always had a thing with Casey up till really this season that he's a good player, but that he's liable to get, if he gets a bit of physicality, he's liable to struggle a bit. And I think this season he hasn't. And I thought Charles he's a horrible player to play against. Charles, he's horrible, dirty, niggly, physical player to play up against. And I thought Casey handled him really, really well. And I think that was the thing that was lacking in his game. And I think he's got that in his game. And I think there is a shout that he's one of our best players this season. Certainly he's our best defender this season. Well, actually, no, there's a fire in there. But yeah, I think there is a shout in that he's one of our top players, at least.
He certainly had his moments, Mitch, where he's let the side down, where he's let the goal slip in, whether that's a collective effort in defence. I wouldn't think he's had a best yet. Well, time will tell over Christmas when we've got that busy period.
Just to play devil's advocate, should we be bigging up the defence considering we've conceded the most goals in the entire division?
No, but I think the defence is. We had this debate on the first 10 minutes of the game against Bristol, where I think the defence is a team effort, and I think the defence is always going to struggle when you've got. We've had a very, very weak midfield in a formation that's fundamentally set up, 4-4-2. The problem with 4-4-2, if you don't have a strong midfielders, you'll just get completely overrun in an era where almost everybody plays 3 in midfield. And then if your midfield's lost the battle, your defence are up against it. And then if your defence are up against it, the defenders are going to make more mistakes and everyone's going to call the defenders crap. It's like the thing, innit? I was a goalkeeper for our school team. Every goal was my fault, of course. Never mind what happened in front of me. There is a bit of that with the defence.
Were you of the O'Donnell school of goalkeeping? Or would you take it on your chest and chip the ball over the oncoming forward?
Well, my goalkeeping career came to an end at 14 and I got fed up of being the person that gets blamed for every goal.
I'm trying to think of bald goalkeepers. Was there many?
That lad Bartes.
Bartes, yeah.
You got Brad Friedel back in the day.
Yeah, of course, it could be all those people, as Colin Green, all etc.
Yeah.
Only goalkeeper to score.
Colin Methven.
Yeah. Richard O'Brien on hard times and all of that.
Jesus. And I was only in net because I didn't get picked for school. Jesus.
And as I've probably said on before, this was not only was the school team goalkeeper, it was actually the same school that I think he got into the worst ever pool 11 that the pod did years ago. Was the one and only Neil Whitworth played for my school, albeit 5 years before me. So there's some serious pedigree in that school team.
We'll have to dig that pod out. That was quality. We should do those again. Actually, they were good fun. Dave Bamber didn't like that, did he? He gave us some stick.
He called us out on it, didn't he?
Called us out. We should have put Bamber in it. In fact, shall we do it again and put Bamber in? So sorry, Dave. This was from your first spell. Absolutely shocking. Speaking of absolutely shocking, we had an absolutely shocking start to this game, in my opinion. Tyra was flapping all over the place. Shaky defence, passes just all over the show, giving the ball away. But I think that was coming from both teams. It was 2 crap teams, really, first 20 minutes of the game. No quality whatsoever.
It was tactics again, though, wasn't it? Because
I think they're probably...
Oh, we've hit an impasse, Tim. You go.
Oh no, I was only going to say. I think we've got to put how we played in context. In that, I think Bristol Rovers are one of the worst teams I've seen this season. So just to pick up on the point you were saying, John, I think it was that it looked an incredibly poor game at the start. I mean, it really looked like a not in a relegation dogfight. It's more like a relegation fly the white flag from both teams. So it was a hard watch. It was like who could be worse than the other, wasn't it? That first 20.
Look at this comment from David Dixon, Tim. Bristol was so poor, we looked better. So we looked better. Same. If we'd have played a good side last night, we would have lost again. So it's hard to argue.
Jesus, David's on fire tonight, ain't he? Goodness me.
Well, it picks up a bit on 20 minutes, though, didn't it?
Yeah, but I think it was a tactical switch again. I think it was Bruce again. He read the game. We set up with 4-4-2. Hamilton was wide. We were getting absolutely overrun in midfield. The defence and the attack looked about 300 miles apart, and the midfield didn't exist. And that was with our two best midfield. There's no doubt that Norburn and Evans is the best pairing that we've got, and that they didn't really have any impact on the game. Their lad with the Alice band was just running through the middle at will, and Bruce pulled Ballard to the left, put Embleton into the hole, and then suddenly we had an extra man in midfield. Embleton was finding space and he was linking everything up, and suddenly, bang, we had control of the game. And really, from that point on, we had control of the game. And again, like I said about the Bolton game, it's just really good to see a manager who'll watch a game for 15 minutes, go, this isn't working, you go over there, let's try that. Who will actually read it and make some sense of the fact he's got a bloody notepad or a bloke with an iPad behind him or something, because he's actually doing something with the information and making some kind of decision based on the reams of information they have these days. And that decision was obviously, we're getting overrun in midfield, let's put an extra man in there and see what happens. And it turned on that for me.
Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong, Bruce, he inherited this squad, didn't he? So he's got to make do with what he's got. And quite right, Mitch just quite said it, hasn't he? He's making changes to adapt to the game for the players that he's got, and he's trying to make use of them. You know, I'm not going to say Bristol Rovers were great. Honestly, they were absolutely shocking. I think we could have given Ashley Fletcher, to be honest, just to make them feel a little bit better in themselves. Do you know what I mean? And they still wouldn't have been that good. Do you know what I mean? They were shit, you know, but it's promising to see from the coaching staff that they're dealing with what they've got. They're literally trying to do with what they can do, and then literally going in there, going, right, 15 minutes are in, this isn't working, that's not working, right, we're going to have to do this and this. And they're not afraid to make those decisions. The only criticism I'll probably say is, why the hell did he freaking put Ashley Fletcher on in the second half?
To that.
That is the only.
We'll come to that.
I'm going to ask that question now.
I'll argue the toss with that. I'm up for this.
And DT as well. It wasn't just Fletcher. It was double trouble. Fletcher and DT at the same time.
Great decision. Top management.
Put that on ice, Mitch. Put that on ice.
I am. It's brewing, John. It's percolating.
Let's talk about Embo again. When that midfield change was made, as Mitch said, Embo was put in the middle of the park just to pull a few strings. He's slotted in Norburn with a great ball. Norburn's got his shot away. He's done as Tim didn't do in walking football this evening, and that's hit the target. All right, I blazed one over as well. A great chance for
you're forgetting the one I scored from about 20 yards.
Oh, I wasn't watching when that. I think
right, okay.
I was tying my shoelaces. Ollie Norburn's put a good shot away. Good save from the keeper, to be fair. And then 8 minutes later, Embleton again over the free kicks, put an absolutely delicious ball into the corridor of uncertainty, I think they call it. Nightmare to defend. I don't know who it's hit, and it's gone in. Jimmy claimed it. Ballard claimed it. I think
Jimmy's goal. It's Jimmy's goal. There's no doubt about this. It's no own goals. Jesus, we'll have more top goal scorers that are own goals.
How many's Jimmy got now? If that was credited, who was it credited?
Who's actually been credited with it?
Was it an own goal? Let me have a look.
It was an own goal. It took them ages to actually try and sort it out. Let me have a look.
Longo OG. It says here. I thought if it was a Blackpool player,
is the defenders. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Belongo.
I thought Jimmy flicked it and it hit the defender. And the question about whether it's legitimately an own goal or not is: was Jimmy's flick already going in, or was it going past the post? Because isn't that the definition of an own goal? Is that if the ball can hit someone going in, it's not an own goal. But if it hits someone and it is diverted in and wouldn't otherwise be hitting the target, it is an own goal.
Yeah, it was already going in.
Good
Right,
ball in
give
from
Jimmy-
Embo,
give-
though. Let's big up Embo for the ball,
Yes.
the quality of the delivery.
Yeah, great cross.
What have I put there? Good
He
spell
kept it
now,
in as
playing
well,
football.
didn't he?
What's that,
Yeah.
Brad? What'd you say, Brad? Sorry.
I was saying he kept it in, didn't he? He nearly went out, and then he literally. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Technical difficulties.
I've got something in my eye. I'm just rubbing it.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I was saying as he was before. I thought he was glitching then, and you just froze for a moment
No.
for the audio listeners. Literally, before the cross went in, I thought it nearly went out, and the way he composed himself beforehand, I thought it was really good because the way he crossed it in, I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Because I honestly thought that you'd have your Joseph come in front and just literally tap it in, just to get it into the back of the net. But Jimmy clearly took that. Whether it was an own goal or not, that remains to be seen. But yeah, it was good from us, and I think we needed that. We needed that extra boost of confidence to see us through, to say that we can actually play a game of football.
Talking to Josie, can we have a whip round and buying some proper shinnies for Christmas? Because he's always he must go down injured about 4 times a game, and he wears these shin pads that are like the size of a postage
Oh,
stamp.
they're not them, are they? They've been banned
That's
from
what he wears.
grassroots.
But I mean, I think the rule is you have to wear shin pads, but there's no regulation about the size of them. So if you don't want to wear them, you just wear these little crappy things, don't you? But for somebody who picks up the knocks he does, Jesus Christ! So I think we should have a Seasadders podcast whip round and send him a pair of Adidas full length ones with a built-in ankle things, ankle protection, just to make sure that he can actually see out the season without getting cropped. Anyway.
Have you not seen the latest fashion trend, Tim? You know what they're starting to do now is they're starting to call holes in the back of the socks now to help with circulation and cramp.
Yeah, I've seen all that. Yeah.
I think
That's
Jude
it's a
Bellingham
similar
was doing
fad.
that.
Do you remember when they all started putting Vicks on the shirts?
Yeah,
down the
and
chest
they all got the nose strips as well.
Yeah. And knobheads on.
Yeah. You get some lad who come down to like proper
You would.
park kick that with nose strips and bits all over him, wouldn't you?
I mean, cutting holes in the calves of your socks. I mean, what the fuck?
Well, does it matter? Does it matter? If you want to cut holes in your socks, cut holes in your socks. Crack on.
They don't have to pay for them, do they? Yeah, I suppose they're not. I bet Carl would make Blackpool players. Yeah. Make them buy their own socks if they did that.
1 pair of socks a season.
Sergeant double. Christ. I bet he was right tight arse letting the shirts go as well.
But yeah, we did kind of turn a corner, I think, when the goal went in. It was a massive uplift in confidence. It was like a sea of change, and we were the dominant side from that moment on, particularly in the first half. If you look at the stats there, accurate pass rate 78%, 173 passes to their 129. That's a big difference to that Bolton game, and we didn't keep the ball. We maintained the ball.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Okay, moving on to the second half. Again, we were the much better side next year of 1.02 in the second half, and that translated to that goal very early on, 5 minutes in. Tim, you've put a message in the chat saying, "Don't ask me about the pen," so I'm going to ask you about the pen. Why didn't you see the pen? You didn't do a Smith, did you?
No, I went for a walk because I've got minimum step counts, which is a bit boring for everybody else. But I wanted to get my steps in for the day, so I went for a walk at half time, and I just got back in as the goal went in, so I hadn't actually seen it. So I missed because it was like, it must have been like the
Would you
first
like
couple
me to
of minutes of
describe
the
it
second
for you,
half on it.
Tim, so that you can relive the experience as if you were not on your walk? Oh, he's frozen. He's
I'm
not on his
frozen
walk
now.
now, is he?
I'm just going to nip out and go.
He's been so put out by you asking him that question that he's literally
going for a walk now.
So what Tim was trying to say with that strike from us was absolutely superb, and yeah, definitely a penalty. See, as though that arm was so far high up, the Conservatives wanted to get that hand.
I don't know if it was because his arm was high up, but I don't know if he actually hit his arm. And their captain was going absolutely ballistic at it. And the replays on iFollow are crap, or whatever it's called now, Tangerine TV are crap. His arm was out of shape. It was like the referee gave the penalty possibly for his arm being in illegal shape, whether or not the ball hit it. But I don't care. But it was a superb penalty. I mean, I actually thought Evans was going to miss. I don't know if I think everybody does this, don't they? As soon as somebody steps up to take a penalty, you read them and you think, oh, I can tell he's going to score, he's going to miss. And I went, oh, he's going to miss. And then he did the opposite. He was just so confident.
I was the opposite. I was the opposite, Mitch. He had supreme confidence in his face. His body language said to me he was going to score that. His shoulders were back. His chest was popped out. And he's a class player. I thought goal.
I read it as
go on.
I read it as he's going to absolutely belt it and it's going to balloon over the bar because he's a bit too. He was pumped up, but seemed a bit too calm. But anyway, he obviously wasn't, and I don't know anything about taking penalties because I was a dreadful penalty taker. I was a mediocre goalkeeper. I was okay as a centre half, but I never really had the physique. But one thing I could never do was take a penalty. I was absolutely awful at it. So I know nothing about it. Lee Evans knows everything.
First league pen of the season as well.
Have you got any penalty stories, John?
Well, funny you should say that. I don't like to talk about it. You know me. Go on YouTube if you don't know what I'm about. Search Blackpool fan on Take It Like a Fan, and you'll see a moment of extreme.
You and
glory.
Chris Walker were locking horns, wasn't it?
All in front of the future King of England as well.
Well,
Blackpool fan taking it as what? Sorry, John. What was that? Blackpool fan taking what?
Blackpool fan on Take It Like a Fan. Search it up on YouTube.
Did he present your winnings to you, Prince William? He was on his stag do, wasn't he? He was on his stag do. He was on his stag do, wasn't he?
Stag do in Blackpool.
5 years ago. Wow.
So someone texted me just before I was about to take it. No pressure, but you're taking your penalty in front of the future King of England. Anyway, let's move away from that. As I've said, I don't like talking about it.
That was the Varney's superb goal, wasn't it, from the left-hand side?
That was, yeah. I actually had Luke Varney's spare shirt on as well. I tried to nick, but the kit man phoned me up, says, "Where's that shirt?" Honestly,
where's that shirt? Carl's on to me.
Yeah, it was Carl, actually. Because I didn't have a Blackpool shirt on. They said, right, you're going to have to get one. So the Sky crew borrowed one from the kit man. And I was like, get in. 500 quid. I've scored a pen at half time. And I've got Luke Varney's reserve match one shirt that I'm going to take home with me. Yeah, fucking phone me up towards the end of the game. Yeah, via car.
I mean, to get your phone number, they must have really gone to search for him or something.
Oh, Jesus Christ. On the other hand, though, Jordan Rhodes was absolutely fantastic. As soon as that referee was thinking, is it a penalty? He literally swooped that ball and went, that's definitely a penalty, ref. I'm going straight to the point now and I'm going to take it forever. Oh, God.
I've not really written much for the second half. What have I put? A bit of pressure being applied from the host. Oh, the Grant Ward effect.
Well,
there was quite a few. Is that the moments yesterday? Is that the Scott Sinclair? Is that the Grant Ward? Is that the Tyler Moore? So there's a few like loose Blackpool connections on the pitch.
But Tyler Moore best known for scoring a goal for us when he didn't play for us.
What do you mean?
Well, he scored the own goal in the Southend game, didn't he? In the homecoming game.
Did he really?
He's the last minute
I don't know
equaliser
that.
where it all went mental. That was Taylor Moore's own goal.
That was his contribution to us.
I've told this story before, but Matt, I'd taken my lad for the first time and he was going, "Oh, Dad, we're going to lose now, aren't we?" And I was like, "No, we'll be all right." And he got to like 92.5 minutes. And I'd said to him about 30 seconds before we scored, I said, "The thing you need to know about Blackpool is that they're magic." He was only like 7, 8. The magic Blackpool, just when you think that they're not going to win a game, they'll win a game because they're magic. And he just looked at me and just went, it was this, "Shut up, no, they're not magic." And about 20 seconds later, out of nowhere, it was just a hopeless ball into the box and Taylor Moore headed it in. And it just his head nearly fell off because he'd never been in a football crowd, let alone in a football crowd of 16,500 on that day of all days. And the place just went mad, didn't it? And I reckon that's the most, I don't know, emotional own goal that's ever been scored by anybody.
I quite liked him when he was with us as well. I thought
he was good.
He was a good player.
Decent centre back, wasn't he?
He was.
Yeah,
Good.
he was.
I was at Innsbruck Airport on that game. Couldn't make it back.
We've drifted, haven't we?
We have.
Would you like me to summarise the last 20 minutes in about 45 seconds?
Yes, I would.
Right, so we were completely dominant. Then they made a few subs, and then he made a triple substitution where they brought on 3 nippy little lads that for about 3 minutes, they actually had us on the back. And then Steve Bruce, tactical genius, management masterclass, did an excellent thing where he decided, okay, we're getting overrun. And once again, he adapted to it and he brought on the athletic, the all-round action man that is Ash Fletcher. But not only that, he brought on the dependable, reliable, much-loved midfield, newly midfield linchpin Dom Thomason to play.
A point of order here, please, Mitch.
Yes.
He's been renamed Don Hutchinson.
Yes, of course, Don Hutchinson. Yes. It must have been Stephen Dobie who told him to bring him on. And actually, as much as in the podcast chat there was a lot of angst about the decision, what I can't fail to note is that they stopped having chances and they didn't really cause us any problems because we went 4-5-1 for a bit with just Fletcher barreling around up front, and that completely killed their momentum. And then I don't really know why we then brought Jordan Rhodes on as well. I couldn't really work out that. It was probably just to bring someone off, and we saw the game out. So we can conclude that Ash Fletcher and Dom Thompson were successful, well-made substitutes. But I am going to make a serious point, a semi-serious point, which is I think what Bruce has done really well is he ain't got the greatest squad in the world. I don't think anybody's pretending this is a promotion-winning squad. I don't think anybody can pretend that the squad is particularly well laid out for the way Bruce wants to play football. But what he has done is I think he's played everyone. The only player I can think of who hasn't played under him, apart from players like Andy Lyons, who literally haven't been fit, is Mackenzie Chapman, who will never play ever in any circumstance in any form of Blackpool game. He's only there to do the kicking warm-ups. I think everybody else has had minutes, and everybody else has actually had minutes in serious games. He's not just brought people in for a League Cup game. And Critchley used to freeze people out. Appleton throws people out. And it's nice to see a manager that will go, no. You know, you've had a bad game. You've gone. You can come back in again. People will go out. They'll come back in. You get the sense that the door is open to everyone in the squad. And right now, that squad isn't exactly what we want it to be. But if we can improve the squad, that's what I want a manager to do. I want them to use all 22 players. I want them to think creatively. I want them to find ways to make players work. I think he's done that with Embleton. I think, first of all, when he got here, he didn't really know what Embleton was. He kept playing him as a winger. Embleton is not a winger, and he started playing him more in this inside role. I think he's done it to a greater or lesser extent with some other players. I think he's brought some players in that he wanted to work and then he's taken them out again. And I just think he's thinking about what he's doing. And all right, we didn't, Fletcher is not the most successful Blackpool player of all time, to say the least, but he's willing to put him out, say you've not played well, he's willing to bring him back in and give him 10 minutes and go and make a point. I want a manager that does that instead of Critchley, who had his favourites and throws people out on the naughty step endlessly if he didn't fancy him. So that is my point on Steve Bruce, Ash Fletcher and Dom Thompson. More balloons. Hooray. You want a load of Ashley Fletcher heads going up like that. That'd be good. Also, would you like a Mitch stat attack? You're getting one. Hartlepool 2, Filed Neil, Medine, 88 minutes. First goal since, I think, January 2022.
Did you see who scored for Cambridge as well?
Yes, Sully Kaikai, last minute against Bolton.
Yeah, against Bolton as well. It's like all the planets aligned for you on Tuesday night, didn't they, Mitch?
Yeah, they certainly did. If we can give Jimmy that goal as well, I'll take that. That's just a perfect night.
Can we draw much into this performance then? This result rather. Obviously, it's great to get the clean sheet.
There's one team worse than us in the league. That's a definite, isn't it?
Is it the start of the great revival?
We can't possibly measure this game. We're grateful we've got the 3 points, but we're going to have to. This is typical Blackpool. This is, normally we play shit against the lower end teams. It happened last season when we had Burton and we had Port Vale, when we had those quick spell games. I think it was 3 points that we needed last night. There's no shadow of doubt about it. And I think if we didn't win, didn't we go from 19th down to 16th/15th in the table? So we've gone up the second half.
Playoffs, aren't we?
Yeah.
Now we're 7. Yeah, we're not far off from the playoffs now. But I'm going to allude to what Tim said in the last pod. We've got Wrexham on Boxing Day. You've got Birmingham City playing in that Christmas period as well. You've got other top clubs, because at the moment we've been playing with mediocre teams where really we could have really done with getting some results. But we're going to start playing the top half of the team. Now, if Blackpool do what Blackpool do well, we're going to start getting points like we got against Portsmouth last season, where we're getting points out of absolute nowhere and we're thinking to each other, we're going to lose this game. We've got no bang-out chance that we're going to get some points on the board from this. We'll be lucky if we get a draw. Then all of a sudden we'll get 3 points in. So I think once we've took on your 6th and 7th place teams, which are not quite in the table where the team's not got any expectation and perform really well, I think that'll be the deciding factor for us to think, do you know what, can we make use of this season and have a little push? But it's all dependent on what we're going to do in January as well. And if Simon's going to cough up the dollar and try and get some reinforcements in for Stevie Bruce, because he's got to take reign on it. He can't have this recruitment try and bring players in for him. It'll be catastrophic. It's already been proven.
I think it's points, isn't it? And I think what Brad said, picking up on what Brad says there, I think we're definitely short. This is not a promotion squad. It's just not. We've played well a few times. We've been over it loads of time. We don't have enough cover in key areas. We've got 2 wingers for a setup that wants to play with wide men as the key creators. We've only got really one striker that all round you'd go, is a really good player in Joseph. I mean, Ballard's a good player, but he's a young kid. He's not scored many goals. So 1.5 strikers. We haven't really got a keeper. We're short, but we've just got to get to January and make sure we're not so far back that it's pointless, and then see what we can do. And who knows? We can speculate all night long about Sadler's relationship with the club at the moment and whether he will or won't spend money, and what he said that she said that he heard down the chip shop about what's going to happen with the club. But he's done it before a couple of times. We've had a couple of really good January windows. The first one with Grayson, we brought in 7, I think, when we brought in Medine, Maxwell, Thornley, Dewsbury Hall, Ronan, Ward. You know, that was a really good set of players. So if we could do that in January 2019 and bring in 6 players that undoubtedly would have an impact on this team, then maybe we can bring in 4, 5, 6 this year round, because that's the sort of numbers we need. So it was 3 points that gives us hope. I don't think it's 3 points that's going to be the prelude to an 8-game unbeaten run, but I have been wrong many times. So it could be more balloons.
We've done the perfect 10 before. We can do it again.
The moment's gone. You should have told me earlier, Mitch.
Hey ho.
Right, just before we go, we've got Birmingham in the second round of the FA Cup on Sunday. It's a funny kick-off time. Is it 1 o'clock? Yeah, it's 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know whether you go strong and try and win the game or whether you rest players. And I think the reality is, we're at virtually every team now, the FA Cup is almost turning into what the League Cup and the Mickey Mouse Cup is proving to be, which is a lot of teams place players who aren't getting normal game time, don't they? And so I can see Joseph being rested for one, and I can see quite maybe not massive changes, but I can see a reasonable number of changes from the starting 11s from the last 2 games. As has been mentioned in the chat, we actually lose Evans and Norburn for Shrewsbury, don't we? So maybe they will play. Is Shrewsbury next midweek? I've lost track.
Yeah.
It's
Next
Wednesday the 4th, yeah.
So if we're playing them then and their rest, they're not going to play in that game. I think they might play on Sunday. I think that's a reasonable conclusion to draw. We might as well keep the midfield strong. But I think we'll see Joseph rested, and I think we might see another couple of players rested as well. But personally, I'd like to see us go for it. And the other thing that I don't know if it's still intended, but the South not being open is a bit disappointing, isn't it? Whether I'd even put Birmingham fans in there rather than leave the South empty and then leave the East empty, because I know the players don't like Birmingham fans being, or any away fans being all the way down the length of the pitch. So I thought it'd been better to have them in the South, but we'll see. Hopefully, there's going to be a few tickets sold, because I think the
not sold many. I was looking on that.
No, that's what I mean. Hopefully, it didn't look like many had been sold. So maybe the club are right not to open the South. To be fair to them, if the take up of tickets is as poor as it was, I mean, a lot of people do buy them last minute, don't they? So, yeah. I mean, David's saying KC and Noban are suspended for Birmingham. Is that right? I thought it was. Sorry, have I got it wrong? Did I say Evans before? Did I? And Norburn. Sorry about that. I thought it was them 2 that were suspended.
To be fair,
yeah.
Sorry, Tim. Right. I was saying, obviously, me being in the Midlands, I've spoken to quite a few Blue Noses who are thinking of going to the game. To be fair, and they're actually just going to go out on the Saturday night and just have it as a fun day out, if you will. I don't know how many are going to be going, but they don't see it serious. I think they're more focused on the league and trying to win the league than actually trying to win the cup. So I think they're probably just going to do what hopefully that we can do and put some fresh legs on there and see what team they've got as a backup, if you will.
Their squad's probably slightly better than ours, though, I suspect, Brad.
They are. The amount of money that I've been talking to a lot of colleagues, and they're saying that they could put 2 teams out in League One at the moment. They are.
But do they have Fletcher and Tomo? No.
No, they don't. They'll never have Fletcher. We've got Fletcher, and he will continue to sit on the bench no matter what.
Has he not had a brief loan spell there where he played 12 games and scored no goals? It feels like he's had that spell at almost all clubs in the football league.
Do you know he was one? Do you know he was one sold for $6.5 million? Was it Middlesbrough?
Yeah, he was sold to West
I
Ham.
honestly know why.
West Ham or Middlesbrough. I can't remember which one it was. He actually did all right at Middlesbrough. If you're lucky, it's a bit. If you look at his stats at Middlesbrough, he actually has quite a good season where he scores something like 12 in 30 games or something. Where you go, oh yeah, those are the stats that you'd expect for a striker. But it's a little bit of an anomaly in his career record. His best days are still to come.
Maybe see Kashi again. That'd be good to see Kashi.
Oh, Kashi.
Marcus just misput. Jerry Yates scored at Dumpdale, has to get a mention. Yeah. I did notice 100%. That, and who noticed when he scored? He made a beeline to run to the pavilion stand, not celebrate with the Derby fans, and the fucking VT editor cut it just as he was about to get there. So no doubt Jezza was coming in for some serious stick, and I'd love to have seen the full replay of him going at them. I'd have loved
my mate at work, who is a acquaintance at work, we'll say for form's sake, who's a North End season ticket holder. We've been commiserating with each other on quite a few weekends because they've not had a great season. And I said, "How was the game?" And he went, "That fucking prick Jerry Yates scored." And I was like, "Yeah."
It's his overhead kick as well.
Oh, aye.
Oh,
we have
the days when we got Jezza and Keshi Anderson pre-season.
Yeah,
early business.
Wouldn't you give anything for another 90 minutes of watching Jerry play? What a player. But in all this celebration of Jerry and Keshi and the fine footballing class that we once had, we've glossed over Ash Fletcher's first time 35-yard volley effort that he had in the last 10 minutes against Bolton, not Bolton, whoever it was, Bristol Rovers. Which could have been just a moment to savour, but sadly wasn't.
Like every other time.
Just finding his range.
I actually thought Dom played quite well when he came on, to be fair, but Ashley.
I think you get players where they get to a point where they can't do right, and I agree. I thought Thomason did fine. I thought he was exactly what we needed, somebody to run around and tackle. And we didn't need to do anything spectacular, did we? And I thought he was fine. But I don't particularly want to see him starting week in, week out, even if he is changing his name to Hutchison. Maybe it's to try and trick Raggy. Who's this new Hutchison lad we've got?
Biggest fan. He's his biggest fan, isn't he?
He is.
Right, massive. It's 22 minutes past 22. 22 minutes past 10 by my watch. So I think this may win a record for the latest pod we've ever done. But good to speak to you, gents. Good conversation as ever. If you are watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And all that remains to be said is thanks for watching. Thanks for downloading. And up the pool. Come on against the
pool.
Up the pool.
Been involved in two. Can he make three? Not on this occasion. Well taken by Walsh. Davis is on the far side. Ainscough coming square. That's the ball. That's a good try!